Here, what's up guys? Happy Saturday, August 21st, 2021. In this video, we're going to take a look at the MLB DFS early slate for DraftKings, Fanduel. You can use some of this information on Yahoo. If you play on PrizePicks or you want to play on PrizePicks, if you do, use code GUNDACKER. They show me love. You get up to up to $100 instant deposit match, no slow drip. The information and the games that we sift through here will probably be pretty universal across the board for those sites. DraftKings has a 9-game early. I think FanDuel's a little bit more staggered, but we'll go through all the first 9 games, and hopefully wherever you play, you can take something away from this. This is RunDFS.com on the screen. If you guys are new to the channel, RunDFS.com is the mothership, right? This is where you guys can unlock access to the spreadsheets that I've devised and created to get me through every slate that I play for MLB DFS, for NFL, for NBA. Right now, VIP passes up to 40% off for the next couple of days until football comes back, and then it's back to normal pricing. So if you guys are looking to try it out and maybe see if you kind of vibe with the product, I guess you could say, maybe try it for much less now, and if you like it, football in a couple weeks, maybe that'll bring it back. In addition to the spreadsheets, the RunDFS.com premium Discord is an incredible group of DFS grinders at every different bankroll level. We literally have millionaires in there, guys that have hit the 100Ks. Always be placing who has won 2 milli makers. That's insane. 2 milli makers since December, by the way. And then, of course, guys, people, girls and boys balling on a budget, grinding the quarter arcades, banking the mini maxes, and people doing work in the single entries, 3 entries. So no matter what your style of play is, I think there's somebody to connect with in that Discord, and there's no egos, man. We don't care. You hit that mini max, that's cool. We got love for you, right? It's all positive. So come be part of the community, man. I love to see you in there, and I love to talk to you in the pre-lock voice chats that we do almost every day before main slate lock on baseball. And then, of course, with football coming up, we will definitely be having some football chats. We used to do the candle burn, the all-night grind. I don't know if that's going to be, we're kind of becoming old men now. I don't know if that's going to be a thing going forward, but I'm sure week 1 will at least be interesting. If not, maybe I'll get up in the morning like you regular folk do. Anyway, good morning to you. I hope you guys had a fun Friday night. We made some money last night. Pretty much nailed pitching through and through. Exposures were solid. So if you guys hung out on the live stream yesterday, hopefully maybe some of that rubbed off on you. And hopefully you guys made some money. You can get back into the swing of things this afternoon. There will not be a live stream on this channel this afternoon. However, there will be some live DFS baseball content featuring me on YouTube. It's going to be over on the Awesemo channel. So go to the Awesemo Fantasy Sports YouTube channel. If for some reason you know me and you don't know that channel, what? But set yourself a reminder on that stream. If you follow me on Twitter, I'll tweet it out. I believe the show I'm on is a little bit earlier than usual because of preseason football and the main slate being just kind of weird, smaller, and earlier. So keep that in mind if you do want to hang out in the live chat and chop it up, man. Anyway, if you don't mind, for positive vibes, hit that thumbs up, and let's get into the action. Yankees hosting the Twins. First game on the docket. Kenta Maeda up against Garrett Cole. Yankees a 5.2 implied run total. Twins 3.4. Garrett Cole is coming off the COVID-19 list where he was handed a really soft and strikeout heavy Angels lineup in 90 pitches, got him 9 strikeouts and 5.2 innings. I definitely think, Cole was able to reinvent himself after the sticky stuff crackdown, but I also think that the Angels lineup was one of the more strikeout prone lineups and is one of the more strikeout prone lineups in all of baseball. So what I'm saying is when I get to tiering pitchers, Garrett Cole's going to be a tier 1 for sure, but if his ownership kind of fluctuates and I got to make some strategic leverage decision making, there's at least a range of outcomes with this projected Twins lineup that is far less strikeout prone than the aforementioned Angels lineup. That maybe his strikeout upside isn't the same, right? It wouldn't stun me if he had one of those strikeout per inning games. With that said, I think he's a solid play. But this Twins lineup projects a little bit differently. Miguel Sano went to go be with his newborn baby. So replacing him in a lineup is a 5% strikeout rate. Williams Estudillo. Luis Arraez already has a 7.7% K rate. Kepler, Jorge Polanco, Andrelton Simmons, all very, very low strikeout guys. So a couple things could happen. Maybe they hit for batted ball outs, and Garrett Cole's able to go 7 innings and has a gem anyway. Garrett Cole can just be Garrett Cole and strike him out no matter what. But I do think there's at least some game theory behind understanding that the Twins strikeout percentage in this projected lineup is far less than some of the other lineups we've seen Cole face in his last couple of starts. His swing and strike rate, 14.7% on the season, 35% overall K rate. He's a beast. It is what it is. Something to look for in the Yankees lineup. Kyle Higashioka is Garrett Cole's caddy, so more than likely he'll catch him today, which would mean Gary Sanchez maybe doesn't make the lineup. I thought maybe you'd want Gary's bat for a little bit of pop here, but I do think it would be positive for them to give him a full day off again, even though he just rested a couple days ago. And the main reason why I think it's possible he gets a full day off is because yesterday Anthony Rizzo had the day off. Because the Yankees were up against a lefty, which Rizzo terrorizes lefties, and Luke Voigt's been pretty outspoken about wanting to play. But then Luke Voigt turned around and just had a massive game. So it's kind of hard to sit that bat down after last night, especially going against a guy like Kenta Maeda, who's been a much better pitcher than the previous 2 offerings for the Twins. Yes, he's been worse this year than last year, but you'd still want to bring it. You don't want to let your foot off the gas, and you don't want to. You got to keep your foot on the neck, right? So I'm curious to see if they try and DH Luke Voigt today and then put Stanton, Gallo, and Judge in the field and just put out that goal line package like they did the other day, where it was just power on top of power, and they got it done. So that's something that I'm looking for personally. Kenta Maeda, 7,500. If you are playing 100, 150 lineups, I do think Maeda is more talented. I don't want to say more talented, but from a DFS hit value at this price point standpoint, I think Maeda at 7,500 could give me that 14 to 20 DKP range of outcomes, even if he did let up a couple of bombs. 5-6 innings from him could get to 18, 20 DKP. That's something we've seen in 2 of his last 4 games, including Tampa Bay and Detroit. You expect that from Detroit, but you see, the potential for him to have a solid game is certainly there, and I think the price point is enough for me to get to. And I think a lot of people would be more inclined to stack the Yankees here, day game, Yankee Stadium, than offer up some clicks on Maeda, especially the ways the Yankees have been putting up runs the last 2 games. But I think at 7,500, 100 lineups, 150 lineups, I would have Maeda as a tier 3, and Garrett Cole would be a tier 1 for me as well. So what we'll do is we'll track our pitching pool here. I'm not going to do stacks or whatever, but we'll start Garrett Cole as a tier 1 option so far today. We'll put Maeda as a tier 3, and then maybe later at the end of this video, I'll come back and set caps based on the projected lineup. So give me some Cole, give me a little bit of Maeda. We're going to stack Yankees every day that ends in Y, just because this lineup has so much pop. Keep an eye on what their ownership might be if you guys have ownership projection sources. Obviously, if they got a little too high, maybe you walk backwards with this being one of their tougher starting pitching matchups in the last week. However, I don't think I would get too far off, and I think this slate will offer a lot of alternatives. So I'm there on the Yankee stack. Give me a little Cole, give me a little bit of Maeda. If I wanted to isolate one guy to maybe get to Garrett Cole, Cole has shown a home run bug to lefties with a little bit of swing. A 1.39, a 2.7, and a 1.6 home run per 9 the last 3 years. 2 left-handed hitters. He just barely got away with one to Ohtani last slate. Max Kepler. If Max Kepler is in that leadoff spot, he'll have the maximum at bats against Garrett Cole, and he's definitely somebody that would profile as a lower strikeout guy with a little bit of pop, a 273 ISO. So if I'm looking to chip in a chair one bat against Garrett Cole, it might be Max Kepler. Moving on to the next game here, the Rays hosting the White Sox. Dallas Keuchel taking on Luis Patino. White Sox implied run total 4.2, Rays 4.9. Neither team screaming at me to full send, a 5-man stack or anything like that. But in this projected Rays lineup, Randy Arozarena, Nelson Cruz, Wander Franco all hit lefties for an incredible average, all 300 plus so far. Collectively average a 1.0 OPS. ISO's nuts, the strikeout rate's low. And in this matchup, we're really not that concerned with strikeouts. Matter of fact, Dallas Keuchel strikes out righties just 13% of the time this season. 251 average allowed, a 1.54 home run per 9 with a 5.97 overall expected ERA, 1.33 whip. He's going to pitch to contact, and that could become something to watch in Tropicana, where they have turf. Only a couple stadiums have turf. Tropicana, one of them. So I'm curious to see if his defense maybe lets him down in a couple spots, and then things get a little sticky, and guys like Cruz and Wander Franco can get to one. Another guy I want to watch and point out, Mike Zunino. He's a massive strikeout artist, 223 overall average against lefties, with an almost 33% K rate since the beginning of last year against lefties, but you could almost eliminate that by 65% in this spot because of Keuchel's very low strikeout rate. Zunino has a lot of pop, a lot of power. He has the highest bomb rating of all Rays today. So if you're going to put him in a spot where you can neutralize that strikeout rate, tap into that 26% batted ball, or excuse me, that 26% barrel rate per batted ball event. He's got a pretty strong shot to rocket one, if not for a homer, but an extra base hit against Dallas Keuchel. So I do like that. I'm not going to pitch Keuchel here. Patino, somebody that is a little bit interesting if I'm running 100, 150 just to diversify the back end. I think there's a lot of volatility in pitching against the White Sox. Kind of reminds me of the Yankees from a month ago. Pretty righty heavy, more than likely, and they still have a lot of strikeouts, but Patino can get you some strikeouts. Lately, the problem with Patino has been the walks. 5 walks against Minnesota, 3 against Boston, 2 in Seattle, New York, and then you'll see in some of those games the strikeouts fluctuate, 2, 7, 3, 8. So because of that, the variance, the volatility is going to rear its ugly head, but there's not a 0% certainty that he doesn't pay off 8,500 to make something happen, captain, right? Last 10 games, we've got a 30 in there. We got a 17, a 14. So it's not out of the ranges of outcomes. So it's not something I would get to in 20 lineups or anything like that. But in the back end of 150, just to diversify a little bit, I'd maybe get to some Patino if the White Sox come out really righty heavy. Patino splits have been pretty stark so far this season. A 31% K rate to righties, just 13% to lefties. Maybe he adds to that K rate and gets closer to that 27% that we saw last year. I'd probably say positive regression is probably half, right? Maybe in the middle if I can get to 18%, sure. But the XFIP is still ridiculous, through the roof. 847, this is probably a short sample size type of thing, but last year 4.62 was the XFIP. So I definitely want to see more righties than lefties in this White Sox lineup. With that said, White Sox are still going to be a pretty strong, powerful lineup, but there are plenty of viable clicks in this lineup for me. Yesterday, Luis Robert saw himself bat second instead of Cesar Hernandez. Maybe the platoon matchup here favors Hernandez, and they get him back in the 2 spot. If not, one of the things I was really preaching about yesterday is I usually trust the DraftKings algorithm more often than the Fanduel, and anytime I see a guy cheaper on DraftKings than Fanduel, I think DraftKings messed up. Luis Roberts, 3,300 on DraftKings today, but 4K on FanDuel. So he's definitely a potential value on DraftKings if you want, just in general, making the lineup. But if you bat second, that's a lot of opportunity sandwiched between high hit for average guy in Tim Anderson that can steal bases, get himself in scoring position with Jose Abreu behind you. That's protection, right? Abreu is often an RBI leader. So I do think Robert would be in the player pool regardless. But look to see if La Russa sticks with this lineup that he put out yesterday, or does he go a little bit more spread out and pick on the Patino splits with Goodwin, Cesar Hernandez in the mix as well, and maybe even like a Zach Collins at catcher. So plenty of ways for the White Sox to go. I'm a little bit more inclined to get to the Ray stack today than I was yesterday, just because of some of the top end lefty power. Neither team really strike me as a full send 5 stack based on the Vegas totals, based on the park, but I couldn't have none of these guys going into battle, and I can name off 4 Rays that I would like to have exposure to. And if I got to a little bit more like a Yandy Diaz, Margot, somebody like that, it would be fine. The same with the White Sox. So they'll both teams will definitely be in the player pool. As of now, I probably don't commit to full stacking them, but we'll see. We'll get to that. Neither pitcher I'm going to introduce my player pool right now, but in the back of my mind, I don't think Patino's completely dead in the water yet. But I'm not going to add him to the tiers just yet. Royals at the Cubs. Next game on the docket. Royals, an American League team going into the National League parks. They're going to lose the designated hitter spot. Got to wonder if one of these games, potentially this one, they give Salvador Perez a day off, and if that were to happen, this Royals lineup definitely takes a step backwards. Chris Bubich is starting for the Royals. Keegan Thompson for the Cubs. Thompson looks like he's going to be more of an opener in this situation, so because of that, you did your thing, dog, but that's going to be a no for me. Looking at his last couple of outings, 27, 42, 15, 26 pitches. Hasn't pitched in the major since July 26th, so I guess we can pull up his minor league card and see if he had a rehab start and maybe got stretched out. 27 pitches in 1 inning against Cincy, by the way. Dave Ross said Thompson will start Sunday versus the Royals. Thompson was reported as Saturday's expected starter early in the week, blah, blah, blah. He would be promoted from AAA Iowa. He posted a 2.21 ERA, 1.28 whip, and a 43 a 43 to 22 strikeout to walk over 40.2 innings as a reliever for the Cubs. Yeah, so that's not great, but just as a reference here, has Keegan been a surprise 5-6 inning guy in his rehab stuff? Even if it may not even be rehab, he might have just got optioned down and called back up. So let me see what's going on for Thompson. Game log. So, July 31st, 3 innings, 1 inning, 3 innings. So, yeah, no 5-6 innings. So, I probably don't get to him here. Would be a unique opportunity if we did get a stretched out starter. Because if the Royals lineup did happen to not have Salvi, no DAs, this could be a lineup to pick apart with a lot of 25+% K rate. So maybe something to watch for. Maybe if you treated Thompson like a SP2 bat, get home run points, go for it. I think right now I'm not going to get that cute. Something to watch, though. Chris Bubich on the bump for the Royals. The Royals are actually dogs right now. He has allowed a 1.96 home run per 9 to righties this season, 203 home run per 9 to lefties. And then when you take him out of Kaufman, you put him on the road. On the road, he's got a 3.29 home run per 9 allowed with 13.5% walk rate. So those are 2 very dangerous metrics because the walks can put ducks on the pond, can make him pitch out the stretch and create the more emphatic home runs, right? The 2-run shots and the stacks become even more positively correlated. The Cubs are not fun to play, right? I get it, but they do have a run total pushing 5. Wind is blowing out to dead center around 9 miles an hour. Nothing emphatic, but with Chicago day games at Wrigley, keep an eye on that. If everything is as stands right now, I would absolutely have to look at Patrick Wisdom, Frank Schwindel. Wisdom, we have a little bit more sample size. He has a 43% K rate, but when he's not striking out, he hits the ball with a lot of power, and Bubic has just an 18.9% K rate to righties, so that could be a matchup that accentuates his power. David Boat, Matt Duffy, like these are not fun names to play, but you could understand and justify them pretty well, and just wisdom will cost you. 4,800 on DraftKings, everybody else really doggone cheap, so if you want to dig into Bubic's weaknesses, go get you the Garrett Cole, Max Scherzer lineups. Maybe the Cubs are an option to consider as you go throughout the day. On the Royal side, Whit Merrifield, Salvi, Santana, of course, are the guys I want to look at the most day to day. Whit Merrifield probably getting to a really dangerously cheap spot. Sooner or later is going to pay off. A homer, near hit for cycle, stolen base type of game. And then Nicky Lopez has a really strong base running rating, but nothing other than that. Like no power. OPS is pretty low, so not too excited to full stack Royals or anything like that. But I would check off a couple of these names to be activated in the player pool to fall into my lineups as we scripted. And there'll never be a combination of Cubs names that I would be excited to play, but the ranges of outcomes don't have them getting blanked here every time. So I'd probably unlock 6 to 8% as is, and kind of see where the field is, kind of see what the Vegas line moves to or from, and then go on from there. Let's move on to the next game. Blue Jays hosting the Detroit Tigers. Basketballers. Okay. Willie Peralta up against Hunyan Ryu. We got the Blue Jays with an implied run total of 6, and the Tigers just 3.7. Robbie Ray did his thing last night. Hunyan Ryu, hold my beer. Not quite the strikeout guy that Robbie Ray is, just a 20.3% carry to lefties this year, 19.2% carry to righties. So maybe expect a little bit more of a modest outcome. However, I do think Ryu could perform pretty well at 8K, right? 20 plus gets me to the dance. We saw him drop 27-25 against Cleveland and Boston. Then he curtain called that Boston game with a -10, and Seattle just 9. So wide range of outcomes here, but I do think against Detroit, 8K Hunyan Ryu is definitely not somebody I would have 0% of. You see 23, 30. I just think the landing spot's a little too soft. So I think what I'll do for Ryu here is start him as a tier 3, and I do think he has a little bit of potential to move up to a tier 2 for me. But I'll start him modestly. Willie Peralta, that's a no. 12.8% K rate to righties, 18% to lefties. This Blue Jays lineup should project pretty doggone well. Both sides, the pricing for the Blue Jays is fine. Only Vladimir Guerrero is over 6K. Everyone else 51 or less, and on both sides still cost you. But I think you can make it work. There will be some value out there to make it happen. Captain, the Tigers bullpen also going to be projecting pretty bad here. Yesterday we saw Bo Bichette lead off for the Blue Jays. Doesn't really change a whole lot here, but it was fun to see that. Bo Bichette would be the cheapest bet, I think, with the most viability in the top 4, top 5 on Fanduel at 3,700. So maybe a little bit more implied value on Fanduel than DraftKings. But yeah, give me the Blue Jay stack. No pushback there. They would be one of my more sought after stacks on this slate so far, and probably my favorite that we've talked about of any game so far. A little bit of Ryu. If I wanted to pick on Ryu, there's not much in terms of holes. He has had a little bit of power allowed to righties, on 1.14 homer per 9. It's going to be fun to keep chasing Miguel Cabrera, 500 at 3K on each side every day. But I'm more so inclined to just look at the Blue Jays offense here and not really believe much from the Tigers. We'll move on to the next game, Nats at the Brewers. So this next game is at 4:05 Eastern, which is a pretty decent gap from the first game. So a lot of these games that we're about to talk about probably don't give you a lot of confirmed lineups by initial slate lock, and that's not necessarily a bad thing, right? You can turn that into a little bit of an edge, be a little bit more profitable if you guys do have the power of an optimizer that will allow you to re-optimize or swap-optimize as the slate progresses when lineups become more confirmed. It could just make this slate a more profitable day for you. So Nats at the Brewers, Paulo Espino taking on Eric Lauer. Brewers have a 5.5 implied run total. Nats at 3.6. Patrick Corbin actually had a solid game against the Brewers yesterday. Espino has been really, really not good. 15.9% K rate to lefties, 19% to righties, a 2.65 home run per 9 to righties, elevated fly ball rate, and the average allowed over 250 to both sides. The power's definitely been more so to righties. There are some Brewers bats that bat righty that maybe could take advantage of that. Willie Adames, Avisel Garcia. I don't know about Lorenzo Cain in 2021, but he stole a couple bags yesterday. So the Brewers stack is actually pretty valuable through and through, and I think the bullpen for the Nats could create a quality 8 innings of at-bats for the Brewers here. Brewers are sizable favorites, minus 220, so probably just project them for 8 innings of at-bats, but that's fine. Not much pushback here. A lot of really positive stuff. A 4.18 rating for Eduardo Escobar in this matchup. And then a 404 for Adames and a 410 for Avi Garcia. I actually might have this. No, that's right. Okay. So I'm there on those three, and I think the stack itself kind of creates itself. Colton Wong is fine. Adames, Yelich, I think, had the day off yesterday. I'd put him back in the mix. I'm not as high on Yelich this year as I have been, but yeah, the full stack is in play for me. Lauer's 8,600 on DraftKings versus the Nationals. Is he playable? The strikeout stuff to righties is 1-4, to lefties 1-5. He does hold lefties to low power, just a 0.47 home run per 9 to lefties so far. 46% ground ball rate and an elite 26.8% hard contact. It's hard to hit homers if you're not getting hard contact. So I don't think you would be out of your ever-loving mind to get to a little bit of Lauer. Right now, I probably don't put him in the pool, but I've seen a lot of weird names do just fine against the Washington Nationals to start the since the All-Star break with the trade deadline. So if he, at 8,600, if you were able to take 16 to 20 as a SP2 spot, I don't think that's crazy. Right now, I'm not going to put him in my pool. If I wanted to pick on him, there's definitely some weaknesses in his game against righties. His average allowed to righties has not been as bad as it has been last year, but he still has a 4+ xFIP and a 1.66 home run per 9 to righties. So maybe Josh Bell can tap into that and bat from the right side of the plate. And yeah, give me some Brewers. Juan Soto is always a playable option here. I don't think he'll get a lot of eyes on him because of his price point, because of Lauer's positive splits against lefties. Take that for what it's worth. But I'm leaning more so just the Brewers team here to full send a 4 or 5 man stack. And yeah, I'm not going to put Lauer as a tier 3 yet, but I don't think you're crazy if you guys did it, right? If your risk tolerance is a little bit wider and your floor expectations a little bit lower, that's fine. Mets at the Dodgers. Mad Max hosting Rich Hill. 3.2 is your implied run total for the Mets, and the Dodgers sitting at 5.4. They're minus 263 favorites. Scherzer has been absolutely dominant since coming to the Dodgers, coming off a 7 strikeout game against the Mets. His former division foes had a lot of insurance runs with a 14 run from his offense, so that was nice. 94 pitches in that game. We'll probably expect 90 to 100 pitches being his rope today, and yeah, Max has the ability to be the highest scorer on the slate, on any slate that he's on, so he's absolutely a tier 1 option for me. So let's put him next to Mr. Cole. I almost typed Rich Hill. And then Rich Hill doesn't make the cut for me. Dodger stack will be something that I'm seeking. And then, yeah, if we wanted to pick on Max, we know he's going to allow a little bit of power. He has allowed a little bit more power to righties this year than lefties, which that's usually been reversed. I would assume that there's some crazy numbers, or at least 1 or 2 Mets that have some good numbers off of Max historically, and a lot of sample. Maybe a Conforto, I think, might be a name that sticks out, or a Nimmo. So if you wanted to cherry pick some of those guys, one of the concepts I was discussing in the live stream yesterday was I don't like the idea of stacking it against chalk as a blanket statement, because chalk is a loose a loosely used word with no real definition because chalk is kind of subjective to the player. Everyone has different definitions of what they think is chalk, and chalk is for me is relative to percentage of success for the player versus percentage of success from his DFS price point, from his fantasy points, all that good. It's a whole long concept, but when a guy gets to 60 to 70 to 80% own, a couple slates back, you saw Brandon Woodruff against the St. Louis Cardinals. Then that creates an opportunity where baseball is baseball some days, and there's a failure rate that's high enough that maybe you just grab. If you're invested, like for example today, if Max Scherzer is somebody that could reach 60+% owned on a slate like this, maybe you grab 2-3% of the back end of your pool as a surprise Met stack that they just hit well today, or same with the Twins and Garrett Cole, right? We've seen Garrett Cole have a couple blow-up games. Matter of fact, I think one of his worst games of the year came against the Twins. The concept being, I'm more likely to stack against chalk because of baseball when those guys reach the 60% threshold. I think today could be one of those days. So absolutely still listing Scherzer and Cole as tier 1 options, but in 150 lineups, why run 150 if I'm not going to try and capitalize on that what the heck leverage against 60% pitchers? So that's just a thought that I've had floating around, and Scherzer might be one of those guys that reaches a crazy ownership today, and maybe the Mets surprise us with a little bit of pop. Give me the Dodgers stack against Rich Hill individually. You know, he's a guy that does limit hit for average and limit power, but this Dodgers lineup is just too talented for me to not to get to every day. So kind of lazy analysis there, but there's too much upside, too much floor in this lineup, so I'm going to be invested in the Dodgers. Let's move on to the next game. Giants at the Athletics. Kevin Gausman taking on Chupapi Manaea. Sean Manaea, 9,300. Gausman, 9,500. Both guys, I think, individually viable, but obviously carry a lower floor, lower implied ceiling based on the matchups. San Francisco's been solid. Oakland's been solid. And I mean that also in terms of strikeout potential. But they do also create a little bit of pivot opportunity to further diversify your pitching player pool. Right now, the Gausman train coming through. That's always fun. A 3.53 Sierra and 3.32 expected ERA from Gausman on the year, and on the road this season, a 3.62 xFIP, a 30% K rate, 184 average allowed, and a 0.71 home run per night allowed. Gausman has not faced the Athletics this season. This is a NL versus AL game where Gausman's team picks up the DH spot, which actually could be a positive for Gausman, as it would maybe create less pressure to remove him if his bat was due up. 5.56, 4.1, 4-point innings pitched in his last couple of outings, but even then, you see a viable path to maybe 20 DKP. Has had a tough strength of schedule in his last a couple of shots at Houston, the Dodgers again. Of course, that division's nasty, but he's good, right? He can hold his own. So if you put him in a super pitcher-friendly park like Oakland Coliseum, 9,500, yeah, there's a world where he pays that price point off. Like I said, neither lineup projects to be extremely strikeout prone, but 20 DKP might be enough to give you that puncher's chance. And if that, near $1,000 savings versus some of the other guys, even if Max or Garrett Cole didn't get blown up, but they only had like the Chris Sale game yesterday where fine real life game, but for DFS you could pivot, save some money, and maybe inflate a bat somewhere else. Maybe you get that out of Gausman. And Sean Manaea has definitely been a little bit more flimsy as of late. He was very high owned against the Texas Rangers. Another example of the what the heck stack against the chalk pitcher against the Rangers. 5 innings, 7 earnings, 3 bombs, and that's something not a lot of people saw coming, right? So 9,300 for him. What you're looking for is 20 plus as well. At home this season, he's averaging 17 DKP. He did pitch once against the Giants this season, got to 21.9 DKP. This Giants lineup has definitely been having a lot of moving variables game to game. Today's lineup could be one of the more fun Giants versus lefty lineups that we'll get. Austin Slater, Chris Bryant, Buster Posey, Darren Ruff, Evan Longoria, Wilmer Flores. I mean, those are lefty mashers. So I could see myself getting to both sides here. I think the park could take a lot of air out of the balloon. It does suppress a lot of homers, but this is a really strong hit for average lineup. So this might be one of those spots where people don't really get to Mania because of the other options on the slate, but they also end up respecting Mania and the park and don't really get to the Giants. And I think I get to the Giants, but I also just might be a sucker for my Cinderella stack. And the Giants against lefties have been just that. And also, this could be one of those games that we just don't have lineups for when main slate locks. So, like I said, that could be a profitable thing for you guys that have some time throughout the day to make adjustments and even if you reserve your entries and just put 30 40 lineups in there that feature some of the early offenses, the Blue Jays, Yankees, stuff like that. Come back later and upload that CSV. You can do it after lock and tap into some of these games that just might be low owned inherently just because we don't have confirmed lineups. But I think this one specifically is one of those outcome games where they have a really strong lineup against lefties. They pick up a DH and Shamania has shown that he can bleed red. xFIP to righties elevated, and we saw him, get smacked by the Rangers lately. So it's absolutely a range of outcomes for the Giants to be a positive stack. But that said, if you got to some Mania, cool. I'm leaning more so on the Giants stack. And a little bit of Gossman, not a lot, a little bit of Gossman. Athletics, Starling Marte, Matt Olson, still everyday plays for me. Marte steals at will, and Matt Olson has one of the best swings when he's making contact. But I do like Gossman's metrics to kind of limit this game from being a shootout, at least on the A side. We have a couple of games left. Astros hosting the Mariners. Man, we did a bit about the Astros slot machine. I sure hope you guys got your money yesterday, because that's when Edith walked ever so slowly to the slot machine that some of you guys got up from and walked away because you've been pumping quarters for a week and a half and say, I'm done. Astros stuck. They're never going to do it again. And then Edith put in a couple chips, pulled that thing, and bam, paid out nicely. Astros looking to curtain call today. It's Logan Gilbert on the bump versus Jake Odorizzi. The total for the Mariners, 4.1. The Astros at a 5 implied run total. Minute Maid Park just might pop the roof open for an afternoon game down there in Houston. Keep an eye on that. If that did happen, maybe the ball flies a little bit more. It is over 90 degrees in Texas, but I don't know generally what their policy is in terms of how hot is too hot down there. They like their sunshine. So if the roof was open, another perhaps middle of the slate opportunity to build on some positive leverage because this game may not have confirmed lineups early. Go for it. Astros are a powerful team against just about any pitcher, and Logan Gilbert's definitely somebody that has shown a lot of pop. He's one of the top prospects for the Mariners. But the Astros, man, they're good. They're good. So I'm in on the Astros stack at 7,800 for Logan Gilbert. I feel like any other matchup other than the Astros, I'd be a little bit more excited about the price point for him. But I just think this ain't it for me. I think I'm gonna be down on Gilbert. Has not faced this Astros team, and there's a lot of less than 20 DKP performances as of late. The Angels was one of his better matchups and better results, and then he went bananas on the Yankees. Outside of that, it's a lot of stuff I can do without at this price point versus the risk versus the alternative. So I don't get to Gilbert more than likely. Odorizzi, I probably don't get to him either. Just a 20% K rate to both sides of the plate. xFIP's really, really high. If they did open the roof up, I think the Mariners have maybe a little bit more pop than publicly perceived. Mitch Haniger, Kyle Seager. Lately, Ty France has been sending a lot of baseballs over the wall. There's enough risk that I think Odorizzi could get us 20 or less and not be the nuts. So that's probably where I'm at on Odorizzi. 2 games against the Mariners for Odorizzi. 12 DKP is his average per game. Last time at Seattle, he put up 11.8. So he's literally probably, 11.8 to 13, 14. I probably don't need Odorizzi here. Just give me some shots at both offenses. Honestly, both of them. More so the Astros than the Mariners. But I wouldn't eliminate the Mariners just because Odorizzi is a fly ball guy. Haniger, Kyle Seager both have 4+ ratings on the bomb detector. And then finally, Angels and the Indians in Cleveland, 4:10 p.m. Eastern. It's Tristan McKenzie and it's Reed Detmers for the Angels. So I am going to loosely assume that Detmers isn't super menacing. 6 and 5 innings his last 2 outings. Boy, welcome to the league. Oakland Athletics, Los Angeles Dodgers, and Houston Astros. 3 playoff teams in the moment. So maybe Detmer deserves us looking at his minor league campaign, and maybe he's better than some of the results that we have thus far because of his strength of schedule. So let's type in Detmers, pull up his Salt Lake AAA card, take a sip of cranberry juice. And let's go straight to splits. So in 12.1 innings against lefties, 21 strikeouts, a 1.3 whip. The whip's a little bit more than you would want it, but a 0.88 ground out to error ratio, which is actually saying he's a fly ball pitcher. Against righties, 41.2 innings pitched, 76 strikeouts. A 113 whip, 0.63, so another fly ball number. And then is he just a straight up stretched out starter? 6 innings, 4.45. And then he got called up, so 87.97. I'm gonna be honest. I think in my mind, 5,800 might be a little too cheap for potential positive regression based on his minor league numbers, and then based on the fact that, boy, that's just not fair to get that stretch of teams to start against, right? What would we say, Oakland, Houston, and the Dodgers? Man, Detmers might actually be undervalued here, and this might be an opportunity to capitalize on strength of schedule. 6 strikeouts and 6 innings against Houston, 5 and 5 against the Dodgers, just 2 against Oakland. Still a fly ball guy. In this matchup against the Indians, there's not a ton of high strikeout guys, but right now this whole lineup projects really righty heavy, and normally that's that's the platoon we don't want. Reed Detmers is a lefty, but in the minors he was mowing down righties at an extremely high clip. What was 76 strikeouts in 41 innings? That's nuts. 12 walks and 9 homers. So 9 homers in 41 innings is also kind of up there. But I think that's like a solid risk-reward opportunity at that price point, at 5,800. That's the spot where I can live with 15. Treat him as a Yankee bat, a Blue Jay bat. Give me a home run return here, and let's go with it. What's his pitch repertoire? Let's go to the pitch report. Probably has a nasty slider. Fastball, slider, curveball. And his slider and curveball look really juicy. Fastball hasn't performed great yet, but the Indians have just 2 positive fastball hitters. That's Jose Ramirez, Framil Reyes. Both guys really menacing bats against lefties. So obviously there's going to be some volatility here, but I'm willing to get into some Detmers and just off a hunch get get some exposure. And I'll tell you what, I'm also willing to let that be almost a tier 2 hunch at that price point. Running it back, Tristan McKenzie, 8,100. I actually think, just looking at this matchup for Tristan McKenzie, and the fact that the Angels have all but like two guys in this projected lineup that strike out 26% or greater, McKenzie has an insane upside in this matchup to tap into his strikeouts. We saw him get 11 strikeouts at Detroit, 8 innings pitched, 43 fantasy points. 43 maybe is a little tough to curtain call here, but this is one of the best matchups in all of baseball right now for strikeout pitchers. It's an extremely high strikeout Angels team, and McKenzie at 8,100 really has a soft landing spot where I don't really see him getting less than 16 as an average game, and if he's on one, the 25, 30 DKP at 8,100 is up there as well. I think he comes with enough risk with his high walk rates and his power allowed to not maybe get too crazy with him as a tier 1, but I'm going to go ahead and tier 2 Tristan McKenzie because of the matchup and because of how strikeout prone it can be. So I actually think I'll have both of these pitchers in my player pool. So Cole, Scherzer, tier 1. Detmers, McKenzie, if I can wait till the last game of the early slates, tier 2. Maeda and Aru. So I got 6 pitchers to start with. I think that would be a solid starting point for like 50 lineups. If I really wanted to expand and get into 150, I think Kevin Gossman would probably be introduced as a tier 3 for me. I don't think I am going to sign up for Mania today, and that's probably it. That would probably be as deep as I get at pitching. So that's my thoughts there. By the way, Tristan McKenzie, if we wanted to pick on him, it's going to be a power bat. Shohei Ohtani, playable every day that ends in Y. And then Justin Upton, couple bombs in the last week. Maybe he takes advantage of this 2.17 home run per 9 by Tristan McKenzie. And then Detmers, if we wanted to pick on him, he has had a home run problem to both sides of the plate. I'm willing to let that be a short sample size, tough strength of schedule kind of thing. He could just be a bum in the major league level. We have certainly seen guys, hitters, and pitchers look good and strong in the minors, and then when they get to the show, it just doesn't translate well. But I'm in this scenario going to go ahead and asterisk his first 3 matchups being a really tough matchup. So naturally, though, looking at his minor league numbers, he does have a home run problem, and being the platoon lefty versus righty, I think Franmil Reyes and Jose Ramirez would be, the 2 Indians I look at. Reyes is a high strikeout guy, so maybe that is some of the positive regression we're looking for if we do invest in Detmers. But those would be the 2 Indians that stand out as the guys I'd be most inclined to get exposure to from the Indian side. And because I think I might be a little bit too infatuated with the idea of Detmers, gotta hedge myself with some Indian stacks in the back of my pool. So that is a cheap benefit and a cheap tactic, but it is something that we do have the luxury of doing by mass entering. Guys, that is the look here. So let me say in 100 lineups, let's put some caps. So I think what I would do here is I'd probably cap Cole at 50%, cap Scherzer at 60%. Detmers, I'd probably be willing to go up to 30% on that hunch. I'd probably be willing to go to up to 40%. I do think that's a little bit strong for McKenzie, but this Angels matchup has been really, really solid. And then for Maeda and Rayo, I'd be capping probably those guys at 15%. And Gossman, the same thing. I'd probably cap all my tier 3s here at 15%. Now, cap is not created equal. Cap just means I will have no more than this guy based on this obscure number that I'm coming up with now. Understand that this is these are fluid numbers that can change when confirmed lineups come out, when weather report comes out, stuff like that. But that's just kind of how my brain works when it comes to creating a pitcher pool. So maybe that's something you guys can pick up on. I could have as little as 40%. Sure, this is just saying I don't want more than 60% here, but that might change as we get through the day. Anyway, that's our look at the early slate, man. I hope you guys found a couple nuggets, a couple useful pieces of information here, and I hope you guys have some success on this slate. Like I said, it is very spread out, start to finish, but if you guys are grinders and you're just looking to make a little bit of money, being spread out is probably a good thing for baseball because players tend to get a little bit lazy. They might go ahead and divert their attention to the main slate halfway through the day, divert their attention to preseason research, some NASCAR research, stuff like that, and maybe they miss out on some potential value or some big news. A guy gets scratched, a pitcher gets scratched, something like that. So don't be turned off by the fact that there are some games 3 hours after the first game locks. I think that could be a good thing for DFS, and that's really true in every sport. So yeah, if you guys got anything else for me, man, twitter.com/Gundacker. Like I said, later today we'll be on the Osmo live stream, chopping you guys up for the main slate, and then if you guys want to go above and beyond, rundfs.com VIP pass. Right now you can get it for a week for as little as $20. Also, NFL season long. We got a couple season long spots left. DM me on Twitter if you want one of those. That's all I got. Hope you guys have an amazing day. I love you guys. Good luck. God bless. And go win some money. Channel memberships are live. If you've got love for me, I got love for you. Earn your status as a baller, legend, or Hall of Famer, and get exclusive perks in this channel, like members-only video content, live streams, and rock those custom emojis and badges next to your name that you can flex in every comment section on this channel or in our live stream live chats. Memberships are the best way to show love for me, show love for the content, and make sure more content comes your way.